Good morning, everybody. It is the Irish Sports Daily morning after recap. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, coming to you the day after Notre Dame loses 38-27 to the number 6 USC Trojans at the LA Coliseum. In a way, it's kind of fitting that Notre Dame started the year against one of the top offenses on the road and lost by 11. They finished the year against one of the top offenses on the road and they lose by 11. So thank you, everyone, for joining the show. If this is going to be your first time watching the show and you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Jamie and I will be back sometime this week talking about this game and what's going to come forward. We got the bowl game to get ready for, so there's going to be a lot of content coming out. You're going to want to catch that. Get on to irishsportsdaily.com and look at all those things. And so, yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And then we're going to get going. I'm going to start to get to the comments. People in the chat already. Notre Dame for Life says, good morning, all. Good morning to you. Rajon, always here. Good morning, Greg. Good morning to you, Rajon. David Knight has a headache, but not from drinking. So I understand that. Tushia Porter. All right. That's that's something to say, I guess. Let's see. I do. Notre Dame for Life says I do not understand why Colin Snead didn't play more. So we talked about this yesterday, me and Jamie on the post game, and I just looked it up right now. So Collie or Marist and Bertrand played every snap but two. So Marist played every snap but two. Bertrand played every snap but one. So there was essentially no linebacker rotation in this game. I kind of understand the Snead thing because he hasn't been a key player for Notre Dame this year. And so he was, he hasn't been a key player for Notre Dame in a game like this when there's a lot of moving parts. And that's one thing that I saw from the press box in this game is there's so much activity going on with USC on every play, right? Whether it's wide receivers, even on run plays, like they're doing play actions. They're going out on routes. Every play, there's no straight like, oh, we're gonna do a straight run. Like everything has an option off of it. So there's a lot of moving parts going on for the defense, and it's a bad spot for Jalen Snead. I don't know about Prince Collie, right? I don't know what that was. I don't know. That was a tough situation to not have him because those guys obviously pretty clearly got run down at the end of the game. So that was a tough one. Rajon says, can we all agree that Williams was the deciding factor? So here's the thing with that, right? Is I put it out on Twitter last night. So I was at the 2002 game when that was kind of a resurgence from the from what they had been, right? That they were a poor team, and then in 2002 they had built themselves into a really good offense. And I think the thing about that game, because I was at that game as well, the thing about that game is that offense was unbelievable in terms of design and execution, right? I mean, those guys were people were running free all over the place. The blocking, like the run game blocking, like that was straight runs, right? It wasn't like a lot of zone read stuff where the quarterback can pull it. It's just like we're running the ball and they gashed Notre Dame in that situation. And then whenever they wanted to throw, there were people running free all over the place. That was not the case last night. I mean, it was so much was predicated on Caleb Williams working outside the structure of what the play is, improvising, scrambling around, finding room, and then finding someone in the flat, or just improvising, scrambling around, and then him making the scramble run, or creating time, saving a bad play, or finding, like he did with the Jordan Addison where he found him wide open. And a lot of that stuff is outside of scheme. A lot of that stuff is outside of not just scheme for the offense, but scheme for the defense as well. So it makes it very, very difficult. And he gave them problems. I think a lot of the reason why they ran the ball in the second half is because the defense was so preoccupied with having to deal with Caleb Williams, running around as much as he was. I think they ran out of gas a little bit. And I think USC found an edge, and then they were able to gash Notre Dame in the running game in that third quarter. USC ran the ball 10 times for 96 yards in that third quarter, which was not good, right? It was in the first half, I think it was something like 19 for 53. So they weren't really running the ball that well in the first half, and then they really got it going in the second half, and that was the difference in the game in terms of how it went. And the other part too is, Michael Hahn brings up a good point. Is I knew Cam was going to be out, but Bracy too. No wonder we had no chance in this game. I think it affected the game plan. So another player who went the distance, right? They had Notre Dame had two players defensively who went the distance, and those players were Ben Morris and Jaden Mickey, right? What very tough ask for Jaden Mickey to come in the last game of the year against this team and play every single snap, right? That's just not anything that he's been asked to do, right? He's been a spot player for Notre Dame, and he comes in and he's got to play against this offense. They were 4 of 4 throwing at him for 71 yards. He picked up 2 penalties. He had a face mask penalty after a catch, and then he had one that was picked up, PI in the end zone. So because of a penalty on USC. So he had a tough time. It was a really tough matchup, and not having those two guys, like I think we knew Cam Hart might not play, but again, like Michael points out, Tariq Bracy not being available is just a killer. You're 2 of your top 3 corners, right? You can't not have those guys. And it really hurts. Let's see. I'm going to go to Tushia Porter here. Even though we couldn't get a stop, I think turnovers put this game away. If we score on those 2 turnovers, this is a totally different game. We are still in even after the fumble. Right. So basically this game came down to the number of stops that USC was able to get and that Notre Dame was not, right? So Notre Dame had 2 stops essentially in the whole game, right? So they had 2 times where Caleb Williams had to pooch punt, right? And so USC receives to go into to start the game. They go down and score a touchdown, right? And so that means that when Notre Dame, and then they didn't really string stops together at the first half in that one, right? So it was 17-7. USC won the first quarter 10-0, right? In every other quarter, Notre Dame matched them score for score. It was 7-7 in the second quarter, 7-7 in the third quarter, and it was 14. Both teams scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame tried to go for 2 for some reason that I didn't really understand. Doesn't really matter. But so essentially you're 14-14 in the fourth quarter, but you lose the first quarter 10-0. And, it's not a turnover in the stat sheet, but when you go for it on 4th and 1, you don't get it at the USC 30. That's a killer, right? You need to score on that one. And in the first drive of the second half, Notre Dame's driving down the field. It's a 1st and 10 play, and it's an RPO, and Pine gets – I think he wants to – I haven't watched the replay yet. I think he wants to hand it off to Estime because Estime had a clear path, but I think he was supposed to pull it, and he wanted to just give it there. And they fumble the ball with no USC player around, and USC recovers it, right? And so that was the killer. That was losing the extra possession, right? USC on their extra possession in the first half scored a touchdown. Notre Dame starts the second half with their possession, and they fumble the ball. And then USC goes down and scores, which it's game over at that point. Right now, you're not going to be able to string stops together against this team. You're not going to be able to string stops together at this team in order to come back from a 17-point deficit in the second half. And so that was a huge part of the game and why it went the way it did. Let me see. The 4th down play looked like a victory formation kneel down. Yeah, I mean, it'd been working. I didn't care about the play call. I thought it was fine. Right, they've been doing quarterback sneaks. I didn't see it looked to me like Notre Dame might have got shortchanged on the spot a little bit, but I mean, look that's the way it goes, right? Aaron Stack asks what was up with Bracy being out. I guess he had a hamstring problem. Either he picked up during the week or what. So it was it's it's a huge loss, right? You can't not have Tariq Bracy, and that's going to be a problem. Let me go to another comment from Jack Hopkins. Why didn't Joseph return that second punt by Williams? No one around him for miles. So I think that it's a designed. They know they're going to pooch punt, and so they don't want it to be down inside the thing. So I think it was like, okay, we're definitely going to we're definitely going to fair catch this in order for so it doesn't roll around and they get the ball inside the 5 or whatever. That I think that was a planned thing, and then it turned out that, oh, by the way, there's they're not ready to cover this. There was no one there, but I think someone would have. They definitely would have run him down. That's just true. All right, so let's dive into this a little bit. I'm going to put up some stats here, just for funsies. So a couple things that I noticed in the game. So Notre Dame has 7.8 yards per play, 7.1 for USC. And I noted yesterday, Notre Dame was in the passing game. Notre Dame was the more explosive team. Notre Dame had 12 big passing plays, which is plays of 15 yards or more. They had 12 to USC 6. And I think the main difference was Notre Dame had 2 in the running game. So basically any 2 plays of 10 plus yards in the running game for Notre Dame, and USC had 10, right? So obviously that is a huge difference in what what we would have expected to happen. USC runs for 206 on the game in terms of net, or 204, I'm sorry, and Notre Dame ends up with 90, right? So couldn't get the run game going, and USC was able to run the ball, and that's two things that are pretty. I mean, it's just like you can't have that if you're Notre Dame. Just on the defensive side of it, it just makes it very, very difficult. Total yards were pretty close. I mean, they absolutely were. Looking here, it's total yards. Notre Dame had 408. USC had 436. Notre Dame ran 9 less plays. So if you're averaging almost 8 yards a play, you add 72 to that. I mean, or 63 to that. You're looking at over. What is it, 470, something like that. So look, it was a good offensive performance. And Drew Pine, they 23 to 26 for Drew Pine in this game, right? He had the one bad interception, but in terms of what you would have expected from Drew Pine in this game, it's one of his better games, right? He had like I said, the bad pick. That was a poor decision on his part, but he's trying to make a play. They're already down 10, and you got to hurry up and move the ball down the field. So it's hard to get on him too much. And then after USC scores there, he goes down and scores again, and he throws the late touchdown to Michael Mayer, which was nice to see for Mayer. I assume he's not going to play in the bowl game because why would he do that? He's going to be hopefully a first round pick, and he's got a lot to play for, and he's got a lot to protect too. So I think it was nice to see Mayer, the last catch of his career, might be going for a touchdown, and that's great to see. I think USC scores 60 versus their own defense. Absolutely, yes. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, look at when Notre Dame's throwing the ball, they had people open, they had time. Guys were getting free. Drew Pine was dealing with the ball. I mean, Drew Pine did a really good job in this game, and USC. Nah, man. Against their own defense, they're doing real numbers. They're doing numbers. What's the earliest the portal quarterback will be at Notre Dame? Would love Houston Carr for 2 years of eligibility, and then Carr and Minchie could take it from there. I think the earliest they can show up is like when an early enrollee could, right? So the spring, right? When the spring semester starts, that's when Jack Cohn showed up. So I think there might be getting some traction on that, especially now that the regular season's over. I think guys will start, making it known what they want to do and getting into the portal. And I think Notre Dame has a pretty good idea of who they would like to go into the portal. So we're going to have to see that, but I think there might be movement pretty soon on that front. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting interesting thing for sure. Michael Hahn said, I said going in, if the O-line plays great, we win. If we didn't, we lose. Well, they didn't play well, had to run better to win it and keep them off the field. Yeah, I mean, I think they needed to run the ball better for sure. I mean, they really did. But Notre Dame was moving the ball in this game. I mean, they had the one punt. They punted the one time. I don't know that they punted again. I think they only punted once. Yeah, they had one punt for 39 yards. It was unfortunately just the opening drive, right? And that allowed USC to go out to a 2-score lead. And look, you cannot fall behind, right? Like Notre Dame needed to be the team to go up 10-0 because you could have a couple bad moments where if the offense stalls, it's like, okay, they're coming back. You're still in the game. USC was allowed to get out in front of Notre Dame, and it made it very difficult, right? You had the punt 3 and out, and then you had the touchdown, or you had the punt 3 and out, and then you had the failed 4th down to start the game, and that obviously makes it tough. Notre Dame was able to hold one of those drives in there that helped, and then Notre Dame goes down 10-7, and the not just the fact that USC went down and scored before the half, but that scoring drive took essentially all of 6 minutes. It didn't allow Notre Dame that extra possession in the first half where you could try to get it back, right? But USC started the half with a touchdown and ended the half with a touchdown. And that really hurt Notre Dame because they needed that extra possession and they weren't able to get it. And that's where it really hurt them in terms of winning the game. And then again, I keep harping on it, but they used their extra possession in the second half and fumbled the ball. And that's the trade-off there that really just kind of ended the game, right? USC starts the half with a touchdown, ends the half with a touchdown. Notre Dame starts the half with a fumble, and then USC goes down and scores. Ball game, right? That can't happen in terms of winning the game, right? The game had to go a certain kind of way, right? Like when we talk about what has to happen for Notre Dame to win, right? They can't turn the ball over. They turn the ball over twice, and look, it's a magical turnover season for USC, right? Notre Dame fumbles with no one around, and they recover it. Isaiah Foskey runs down on Jordan Addison, forces a fumble, and Jordan Addison's able to pull it in, right? They recover their own fumble, and Notre Dame loses theirs. And that's how it's gone for USC this year, and that's why they are plus 16 or whatever it is, or plus 20 in turnover margin. It's a magical turnover season for them, and it paid off to their benefit, and that is something that Notre Dame could not have happen in this game. Another thing they couldn't have happen is like I know USC, like they had that good running quarter in the third quarter, but it wasn't a negative for them in the first half either. I mean, it's like they had I think they had 19. I think it was for or 16 for 53 or something like that. They weren't running the ball very well, but they clearly weren't. Notre Dame wasn't. They weren't stuffing them either. I mean, they were clearly. It's like, okay, if they keep running it, they're probably going to have success. And that was a huge problem in the game. Like you couldn't have that, right? You can't have it when you're dealing with Caleb Williams too. They needed to be stouter up front. They needed to be more effective up front, and they just weren't. And then that gives USC a two-way go, and then that makes their offense very, very difficult to stop. And Notre Dame only got 2 in the whole game, so just the game flow and the way it went just did not favor Notre Dame. It needed to go much different in order for them to capitalize and have a good outcome in the game, and it just didn't, right? And so that how do you lose by 11? That's how you lose by 11, right? Just like that. Yeah, luckily I was in the Nuke Gruel says I never want Chris Fowler to call a Notre Dame game again. Sounded like he was blatantly rooting for USC. It was so luckily I was in the box and I didn't have to hear that, right? So we were obviously at the game. The comments that I was seeing on Twitter were just like brutal. Like talking about a player playing with a heavy heart because his high school team lost a a playoff game or something. We got heavy hearts because the high school team lost. I don't get that. That's bad. And Jamie Uyama from Irish Sports Daily, he was talking about how they never mentioned the fact that Cam Hart and Tariq Bracy weren't out. I mean, these are two of Notre Dame's best corners not playing in this game, and they're just kind of, omitting that from the coverage. Like, that has nothing to do with the bearing of the game itself. It's really ridiculous. Like, it's just a strange, and like Herb Street's got a lot going on because he's covering NFL games too, and they're like doing no prep or anything like that, like not watching the games. And Chris Fowler, it's like all narrative based, kind of going in on Caleb Williams and loving him and all those things. It's just, I don't know, man. To be honest, like I haven't listened to one game this year, not with the game muted. It's just I don't want to listen. Like, it makes me upset. I don't like hearing about it, and I just don't. It doesn't add to my enjoyment of watching the football game. So, yeah, man, I can't deal with the broadcast thing. Mike McCarthy says, not making excuses, but the lack of holding calls on SC offensive line was atrocious. The non-call on Foskey where Williams scrambled and threw a 30-yard ball was a killer. Yeah, so it's, there's nothing to say about this really, other than to point it out like Mike does. It's been every week. It's been every single week, right? And it's, that's the drive that ends up, scoring for USC before the half. And it's like, look, it's one thing when you're able to, it's like you allow the fact that he's able to just scramble, and the scrambling is great, right? And it's all that, but how does it happen, right? You have to call penalties. Like, I just don't. It's ridiculous. You can't get a stop on them, and then they can't get a penalty either, and then you call a bunch like at the end of the game. It just feels like total makeup calls, like make it look good in the stat sheet. Because it's like, oh, we can't go the whole game with USC having one penalty, which is the offensive PI on the quarterback on a throwback pass, right? Like, they're going the whole game and they're not doing anything wrong. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's been all year. They're never going to call holding. Notre Dame's probably had a handful of holding calls in their favor. And look, they haven't been called for holding a bunch either on their side, right? Like, they're just not going to call holding in college football. And it's one thing if, it's one thing if Notre Dame is, I guess Notre Dame is not in a great position to take advantage of something like that, because they're playing conventionally, right? But when Caleb Williams is scrambling all over the field and he's able to buy time like that, like, obviously those holding calls get exacerbated a little bit because you need it, right? He's getting away from you, so it makes it very difficult. And so that just, it's kind of it's a bummer that it keeps happening, but it does for everybody. So it's just something that has to be dealt with. Let's see. I think he mentioned Mario M. Albano says, you guys forget Fowler hates the Irish. You would also, if you graduated from the University of Colorado, they won one game this year. I think he mentioned during the pod, or during the broadcast, that he didn't like Notre Dame. He didn't like Notre Dame growing up, and he mentions it. Great. That's good stuff. Thank you for calling this football game. It makes me very happy. Jason Warnock says, what Notre Dame trying to achieve on kickoff returns? Tyree runs straight into the coverage. Why doesn't he go left? The best field position came when USC kicked it into the end zone. Yeah, sometimes Notre Dame has a good situation on kickoff return, and sometimes they don't. And it was pretty apparent last night that it just wasn't going to be a good situation on kickoff return. There wasn't, like, I didn't think he was close to breaking one. I didn't think like they had like a seam anywhere. It just, after the first one, I thought, okay, they need to just start fair catching this, right? It's not there. All right. And then they did another one, and that didn't end well. And so they started to fair catch it after that. But yeah, it just wasn't it wasn't there for them last night. Let's see. Notre Dame also doesn't benefit from non-holding calls since they have a good D-line and O-line. O-line doesn't need to hold as much. D-line gets held a bunch. Yeah, I mean, I think like, leave anyone's O-line, right? And you say, okay, like we have a good O-line, so we don't need to hold, right? And I think USC would probably feel the same way. Like I think we only look at it from the standpoint of like what other teams get away with and what Notre Dame doesn't get away with, or the other teams get away with, and that sort of thing. Okay. Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, Oscar, for being in the show. I appreciate it. All that talk for anything, I don't know what that means. Congratulations on your Portal All-Star team. You guys, great job. Great job for the Portal All-Stars. Don't come in here trolling. I don't care about celebrating, but don't come in here trolling, because I'll get you out, because I don't want to deal with that. Lorenzo Styles, he did have a good return that went well. So good for them. Let's see. Steve Hogan says, bigger picture, hate the morning after Notre Dame bad losses. My wife, Jen, and I appreciate your Sunday morning breakdowns. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. And to your wife, Jen, as well. That's very kind. I appreciate those words. I'm glad you guys enjoy it. It's that's why we do this, right? For people's enjoyment, to have a good time. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about, kind of a bigger picture type situation for Notre Dame this year. They finished 8-4. Before the year, I think that would have been a huge letdown, I guess, like the floor. Like if you ask people what the floor was going to be, and people would say 8-4. And I think as the season played out, you start 0-2 and you lose to Marshall, especially, and then you lose the quarterback. I think that's when you would start to think to yourself, okay, like this could go really bad. Like this could be a 4-8, 5-7 type situation. 6-6, something like that. Like basically scrapping to win a bowl game or get to a bowl game. And look, the team turned it around, right? They had the really bad loss to Stanford, which everyone is kind of lamenting at this point. But when I think losing this game kind of takes the sting off the Stanford loss a little bit, just because it's like, okay, it's not like they were going to go 10-2, right? They weren't. And, USC was a better team in terms of, the way they played all year. And so losing to them, I don't see that as even like a big, like they blew it or something like that. Like they did not, right? Like USC they've been good. They've had a good season. Obviously, Caleb Williams is a big problem. And so, 8-4, I think what happened is, and you have your backup quarterback. And I think what happened is the team, Marcus Freeman found a way for them to get back to playing good football, right? And that is encouraging to me, right? There's a lot that they can build off of this. The receiving core, most of them are coming back, minus Braden Lindsey. I thought those guys played a great game. I mean, Deion Colsey is really coming on. I mean, this guy, he is so on the year. They're 9 of 10 throwing to Deion Colsey for 192 yards, and all 9 of his catches have gone for first downs. Right? I mean, what a season he turned in the second half. I mean, it's one of the more encouraging things, like going into the off season, and going into the bowl game is the play of Deion Colsey. It kind of reminds me of the surge, like the surgence, I guess. I'm going to say that, not resurgence, but the surgence of Miles Boykin late in 2017, whereas like all of a sudden he was doing a great job and he was being a huge playmaker for Notre Dame. I think that's very important. Jaden Thomas had a great season. I thought, Lorenzo Styles had a good game in this one. I think they need to get him going. And it's unfortunate that Tobias had his concussion, because, watching him run around in warmups, he is just a smooth, exciting, big athlete. I mean, I think our fans need to be very excited about Tobias Merriweather. Tobias Merriweather going forward, because he looks really good out there running around. So I thought Steve Angeli looked good in warmups as well. I think he threw a great ball. It looked like he was doing a good job there. Notre Dame, I think they have a lot, especially on offense. They've got a lot going on. I guess I'll just keep it on the positives. I thought Xavier Watts played a great football game. He really did. He in the pass game, I thought he was where he needed to be. In the run game, he made several stops. He looked really good. I really enjoyed Xavier Watts these last 3 weeks. I thought he would have a chance to come on, and he did. I think he needs to be a starting safety for Notre Dame next year. It doesn't look like Brandon Joseph's going to be back, and I think there's going to be an open spot for him. I think Xavier Watts needs to be a starting safety for Notre Dame next year. He's earned it, and he looks like a really good player for them back there. Very excited about his development. Obviously, Ben Morrison is looking great. Ben Morrison looks good. And then they need to figure out that other corner spot. Looks like Bracey's going to be gone. Looks like Cam Hart's going to be gone. And Jaden Mickey. It's hard to say. We're gonna, it's hard to say we're just gonna plug him in, right? Like, I think they need to find another option there, whether it's going to be, Clarence Lewis, or whether it's going to be, a Ryan Barnes type, Chance Tucker, one of those guys. That's going to be a big key for them. I think hopefully, let's see, Marist will likely come back. I think Bertrand can come back. I get confused about who can and can't come back, but I think Bertrand can come back. And then you got to get like Junior Tuilalamaka going. You got to get Jalen Sneed going. You got to get Prince Colley going. I mean, those guys are going to be very important for Notre Dame moving forward, because they're highly rated players, and they need to start making that difference, right? Like getting that athleticism going, getting the type of speed that negates someone like Caleb Williams running around the way he does. That's going to be key. Jaden Mickey's only real criticism is that he isn't Benjamin Morrison, but what freshman it is. I don't think that's true. He hasn't, in terms. I think it was he was not ready to be a contributor. Like a reason Notre Dame was playing well in 2022, right? And that, on that sense, that's fine. He's not the only freshman that's ever come in and just like he wasn't ready yet, right? And I think Mickey falls into that category. It's like he just wasn't ready, and that's fine. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just like, when projecting forward, I can't then say, he's gonna be a surefire starter next year, and he's gonna do a good job. Right? I can't say that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not giving up on him. I'm just saying it. I don't think he was ready. For simple fact, like I just don't think he was ready this year. Mike McCarthy, thank you. Appreciate you, Greg. You're the most balanced when it comes to evaluating games and players. Thanks for sure, man. I appreciate those words. That's very nice. All right, let's see. Let's get some other comments. Jason Warnock says, I'm more optimistic with an 8-4 Marcus Freeman team than I would be with a 10-2 or 11-1 BK team. So here's how I look at it. I don't think that there is much difference in if Notre Dame had the exact same season, if they had beaten Marshall and they had beaten Stanford, because those are losses of like Notre Dame. There have been games in the past where it's like Notre Dame, when losing those games, like Notre Dame has tried to lose those games before, and they ended up working out, right? And it's easy to just point to last season, right? That's an 11-1 team, right? Tried to lose to Toledo, down like in a bad way against Toledo, right? We've all said it. If the kid takes a knee at the 1, Toledo kicks the game-winning field goal with no time on the clock, Notre Dame loses to Toledo, right? You're down 8 with 3 minutes left at Virginia Tech. Not a very good Virginia Tech team at all. On the way to losing that game, you find a way to win it, right? But functionally and practically, last year's team is not really that much different than this year's team. even though the records are going to be it's 11-2 or 11-1 versus 8-4. It's just not that different, right? BK didn't have to deal with Ohio State and a good USC program. He didn't have to deal with that, right? The toughest game that they played in the regular season was Cincinnati, and that was they didn't look good, and that was at home. He got Virginia when Virginia lost a quarterback. USC was down. Wisconsin was kind of a joke program, right? Because their quarterback was bad. So I don't see the two teams to me. Marcus Freeman, because of the losses, he took a step back from last year, but functionally, are they really that much different, right? Was it really that bad or that much worse? And I don't think it was that much worse. I don't. It just wasn't. And so, and that's what Marcus Freeman was able to do. He was able to kind of get the program back to where it was. And because of that, and because of the recruiting and the way that he recruits, now that's when you see one thing you didn't want to see is a total disaster, right? A 6-6, a 5-7, right? Because now you have questions. I don't have questions about Marcus Freeman, the head coach at this point. The way I might when it was 3-3 and you just lost to Stanford, right? Those questions were, I had questions that I don't have questions about Marcus Freeman, the head coach now. In terms of, and especially in comparison to Kelly, now he does need to kind of be the thing he was brought in to be. He needs to upgrade the talent on the roster. He needs to get the team playing more consistently all the time. But in terms of did Notre Dame hire a good coach, I think they have a good situation there, and I think he's only going to get better. So, Alakino says trending up. In my opinion, I agree with that. I agree with Al on that one. Let's see. Game time baller. A disappointing loss for sure, but 8-4 is not bad for a first-time head coach. Clemson win was a gem. Agree. That you can't take anything away. Can't take anything away. Let's see. I'm going to just start. We got some Peyton Bowen starter. Yes. I honestly, I really do. I think he'd start for Notre Dame next year. He's that good, and I think put him next to Xavier Watts. I really like that backfield. Hopefully sticks. Hopefully that's something that sticks for Notre Dame. They really need him to. They really needed to. Chris Warwick says, looking forward to the post-Pine future. Here's another thing I'm going to say. Drew Pine did a good job. They did not lose this game because of Drew Pine. Okay, he played very well in this game. He did exactly what they needed him to do. Absolutely. They lost. I think, when you think about it, they went, I guess it was 8-2 with Drew Pine as the quarterback. There was one game that Drew Pine cost them, which was Stanford. And you know what? If Drew Pine is going to have to start 10 games and he costs you one, that is a good job, not just by the staff, but by Drew Pine himself. He needed to come in and win games and right the ship. He was never going to be spectacular, and you can't expect that of Drew Pine. And he came in and he played well enough. That's all I'm going to say. And it doesn't matter to me what he isn't. The fact of the matter is that when you look at this season, he cost them one game, and that frankly makes sense. Right? It does, because he came in here against Caleb Williams and put up better numbers. Now, obviously, Caleb Williams is a better football player, and he played a better football game, frankly. The degree of difficulty was much more. But he put up numbers that were you know what? In this game, he needed to, and he did. It just didn't work out, right? They missed the fourth down. He fumbled there, right? That's a bad play. But it can't be oh, we're going to get in a shootout with USC and Caleb Williams. That can't be the case. You're not going to lose. You're not going to win that situation, right? And they didn't. So I thought Drew Pine, I can't get behind killing him, because it's not his fault for being something that he's not. He is what he is, and you just have to accept it, right? And I'm not going to kill him because he's not. I'm not going to kill him because he's not 6'3". He came in and he played as well as he could, and he played with heart, and he played with humility, and I just so I'm happy with the way Drew Pine played this year, right? He is what he is, and I don't think I don't want to do a thing like I think Notre Dame needs better play at that position. There's no question about it. I think I don't want to say a debt of gratitude. I don't really know how to put it. I think people need to appreciate what Drew Pine was able to do. People need to appreciate what Drew Pine did this year, just generally speaking. Okay, that should just that I think that is the case. Yeah, just replace him. I mean, they need better play. They need better play at the position, right? You need to be more dynamic, right? Because here's the other part. It's not that what Drew Pine can do. It's that there are things that the offense can't do because he's not really capable of that, right? Like they can't do RPO stuff because he's not good at making the decision-making piece, right? They can't get vertical downfield, right? They can't get over the top because he's not an over-the-top thrower. Like there are things that the USC offense has built in because of how good Caleb Williams is, right? That is the thing. You need your offense to be more expansive and more dangerous for the opponent on a week-to-week basis. That's all it is, right? So, that might have been the case with Tyler Buchner at quarterback, right? We don't know. So I appreciate the fact that he gave Notre Dame a good season when it looked like it could go really, really bad. That's all. All right. So, all right, let's see. Where should we go from here? We're going to keep going for a few more minutes. Talking about the USC running game, talking about the Notre Dame passing game, things that stuck out. I mean, hopefully, Alakino says, hopefully Minchie Carr, and I'm still not all off of Buchner either. Notre Dame has a lot of ways to upgrade the position, right? So first of all, Kenny Minchie is one. I think, the portal quarterback, Tyler Buchner. I mean, they have a lot of ways to improve at the quarterback spot. And I think that they will, and they should. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tommy Rees. Like, is he going to be back? Like, right? Like, there's been a lot of talk about, him wanting to go to the NFL and that sort of thing. So that'll be interesting to watch. And I do wonder, just this game specifically, I wonder if Rees knew that they could throw the ball this well, that he would have led the game doing that. He would have led the game off, throwing the ball and then setting up the running game. I mean, obviously that opens him up for a ton of criticism, right? And then you go in and it makes sense, right? Like we need to run the ball and keep the USC offense off the field. But something that I noticed last night is USC is really good at keeping the opponent off the field as well, because Notre Dame only had 4 possessions in the first half, and one of them was the kneel down, right, or the last 30 seconds of the first half, right? Because Caleb Williams is so accurate, the ball, they're either running the ball, which keeps the ball, keeps the clock running, or they're completing a pass, which again keeps the clock running, right? They do a good job of keeping the other team's offense off the field and then being efficient. It's not that they have drives that and they play in a way that keeps the clock going, but then they score touchdowns. And so all they need is a stop or two, and then they've got you. And so that's kind of where it's at. So USC plays, they're very efficient offensively, and they keep your team off the field. They protect their defense too, and I think that's an underrated part of the way that they play. John Collins says we had younger, faster linebackers that should have played more to negate Williams a bit, but why not? You just can't have assignment mistakes. You can't. It's a give and take there. You can't have people confused. You can't have guys just totally busting, right? Like we don't like, 10-yard runs or 13-yard runs. What you don't want is 30-yard runs and 40, because then you really have nothing, right? It's just he presents problems that just unfortunately are like, it's going to get us beat, or it's going to get Notre Dame beat. This is kind of speaking from like as if I was, on like the staff or something. But like sometimes it's just, man, they're getting a push up front to the point where it's going to be very hard to stop them, no matter who is the linebacker, right? There are some plays that, like if you put Prince Colley chasing him in that spot right there, like, he has a better chance to run him down, or Jalen Sneed or something like that. But if those guys are in the game, maybe he doesn't have to scramble around because someone's open because an assignment's been missed, right? So it's just like, when he's scrambling around and doing all that, yes, then I would like for Prince Colley to be out there or Jalen Sneed to be out there to chase him. But there are a bunch of other plays that get made that's like, well, they wouldn't have made those plays. So sometimes it's just their guy is better than Notre Dame's guy, and that's why they're 6, and that's why you lose a game, right? It's just sometimes there's not an answer to every problem, unfortunately. Joe Bro, if Reese leaves, who would you like at OC? I couldn't even say, man. A lot of people like Longo from UNC, and I just don't like him. I think they do it's all RPO stuff, and it's like one of those things I said, like they hit bad pitching, man. Like every time they get against a good defense, they falter every single time. It's just like I don't want it. I don't think it fits with Notre Dame needs to be. I don't think it fits with what Marcus Freeman wants to be. So, Pat M. It was a weird game to watch. Their coaches ran circles around us. Why not adjust to stop their run game? So that's the conundrum that Caleb Williams puts you in. You adjust you want to put an extra box, then fine. They're going to get the ball outside. And now it's their wide receivers against our young secondary without Bracey and Cam Hart. It's like that's the thing. It's like that's why USC is so good offensively, because they are always going to have numbers in the box, because you have to account for the fact that they have Jordan Addison out there, and you have Brennan Rice and Kyle Ford and Mario Williams, right? Taj Washington. Those guys are good receivers, right? These are all starters at other programs that came to USC. Jordan Addison was the best wide receiver in college football last year, and he comes to USC. There's a lot that they present problems. That's why they're so good. So you put an extra man in the box, fine. They're not going to run the ball. They're going to get it out. And then they have mismatches in the secondary, and then they're running all over Notre Dame, or they're throwing it all over Notre Dame. And then you say, well, why are you letting him do that? You need to adjust. Okay, then you take a man out of the box and you put him in the secondary, and then it's like, oh, why are they running the ball? It's a problem. You got to win. Jamie said it yesterday. You have to win one-on-one matchups, and Notre Dame just did not do it enough yesterday. That's it. That's all there is to it, And so it's like I said, it's just they put you in a bind, and it's difficult. It's a tough ask for any team, right? You have to be able to win up front, and they didn't. And that's just the fact of it. Reese called a good game. JP says Reese called a good game last night, except for the 4th and 1 call. Tommy Reese should be back. Golden's D calling was bad. See, I didn't have a problem with the game plan on defense. I really didn't. I just they got outplayed at times. I didn't, because look, what can you not have against a team like USC? You can't have explosives in the passing game, right? Notre Dame limited that. USC could not. USC did not get over the top on Notre Dame. Not only that, they didn't even really try. It was like that. And there were so many times when Caleb Williams is standing back there for a really long time, trying to find someone, and the pressure gets to him, right? And he's having to scramble. Like, that's because of the backfield, right? Like there were a lot of moments when the defensive backs did a really good job in the game, and that has to be acknowledged as well. It's so I don't have a problem with that. I didn't even think the 4th and 1 call was bad. It's a quarterback sneak. It's not that difficult, right? It really isn't. So they should have, Notre Dame should be able to convert that. The only call I really hated was the sweep on 3rd and 3 on the first drive of the game. I didn't like that. Really did not. It seemed like, look, USC is going to be looking for this because they have Logan Diggs in a strange, he's in an H-back role. You're going to be looking for it there. And so then they gave it to him and they stopped him. So I didn't see this as being like a coaching error. Not to say they were perfect, because they weren't, but it's just I guess the only thing you can say is they didn't have a good enough plan for, I guess, Caleb Williams scrambling. But even so, it's just it's been a problem against every single team. So it is what it is. And especially, the USC offense has been humming in the last few weeks, right? Like, you need to hope Caleb Williams has a bad football game. That's basically it, right? And he's 18 to 22 or whatever it was, right? He didn't have a bad football game, and that's the way it goes. Yeah, Alekino, they a first team to learn not to throw at Morrison. Tried one time and never again. They tried it, and man, they got him one on a zone where the play where Caleb Williams scrambled around and then he hit Jordan Addison, and Morrison got a little bit lost in the zone. But that's kind of like it's like a junk play, just one of those things. Like, he just got lost in a coverage situation. So Williams reminds me of when we had Everett Golson play with breakdown on the quarterback and ad libs and runs for big plays. Yeah, he's a much better version of Everett Golson. Yeah, that's a good comparison, because he does kind of play like him a little bit. Let's see. JP says Longo won't leave with Drake May still there, future Heisman. I mean, look, he would if Notre Dame paid him. Money talks, as we've seen. All right, let's see. John Amberg, are there any quarterbacks you would like to see Notre Dame target in the portal off season? Because I think a lot of people would stop complaining about Tommy Rees if we get a major upgrade at that position. Quarterbacks. Well, I mean, a lot of people are talking about Hudson Card, the backup from Texas. I think a lot of people are talking about Devin Leary from NC State. I don't know if that's a thing. Let's see, who else? I mean, what does DJU? What's up with him? I mean, I think he could be a good player. I think the Clemson offense stinks, and I think a better offense can better utilize his skill set. Right? I think he could do a good job for Notre Dame personally. He can do the things that, like, he's a good RPO guy. I think a lot of the things we're looking for, DJU can give. I don't like the Clemson offense. I think it stinks. Just that it's kind of a well-known thing in college football, that the Clemson offense is kind of stagnant and boring and not very creative. So I think DJU could do a good job for Notre Dame. I think if he transferred, he'd probably want to come to the West Coast, but that's just my opinion. I don't have any sort of insight into that. Who else? Spencer Sanders might be going into the portal. Like, he could be an interesting player. Obviously played well in the bowl game against Notre Dame. So, that could be an option too. So there's going to be a lot. I think we'll hear pretty soon. There's going to be a lot pretty soon there. We're going to start hearing some names. Some guys are going to start entering the portal. Blessing in disguise, USC can throttle Michigan in the playoffs. Man, I don't know, man. Michigan is what Notre Dame wants to be, unfortunately. They've got a good thing going. The way they be, like, Michigan is Notre Dame. Michigan is the rich man's version of Notre Dame right now. And that's just true. I think they would give USC a lot of problems. I do. I really do. And that's unfortunate. It makes me sad to say that, but it's not good. right? It's not good. And I think Georgia would give USC a lot of problems too. But I mean, look, Caleb Williams is, like I said, he's a special, special player. He could come up with something, and you just never know. Coach Humph says, Greg, in your opinion, should Notre Dame be proactive and make sure Brian Mason is in the top 5 paid special teams coaches in the country? Yes, if it comes down to that, yes, I think they should. I think they should find a way to keep him. I think Marcus Freeman is. I mean, he's got to be thinking that Brian Mason. I mean, he's been around. Now, look. Now let's think about this. Now, Brian Mason's been around Cincinnati and Marcus Freeman and that scheme for a very long time. I mean, you could see him getting a look at defensive coordinator. So I think it's definitely in his best interest to stick around Notre Dame, right? He would have to. I don't know. I don't know what a team would have to pay him for him to leave. I mean, I think he's got a really good situation with Notre Dame. I think he's going to stick around. He's got a shot to be the DC. So, for me, I think it would be kind of crazy if he left. All right, let's see. Ed, I don't know how to say your last name. I'm just going to say Ed. Sorry, bud. I was hoping USC's magical turnover season would come crashing down like Ty Willingham's first season. Was not to be. No, it was not. It was not to be. They they definitely they kept that ball rolling. So, all right, let's let David Knight put the schedule up for next year. Navy, Tennessee State, Central Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Wake Forest, Clemson, Stanford, Duke, Louisville, NC State, Pitt. Man, so Stanford's going to have a new coach. That's not very good. I like the David Shaw situation. So they'll end the year at Stanford. Clemson, you're going to face Clay Kubnik, and that's going to be at Clemson. So that's going to be Klubnik plus Shipley. That'll be a tough one. Wake Forest. And that offense is obviously going to be pretty good. Ohio State, probably a good offense, right? All those receivers are coming back. New quarterback, obviously, that's going to be difficult. USC is obviously going to be difficult. They're going to have Caleb Williams still. They'll probably have – they're going to have Caleb Williams, right? What else is there to say? They won't have Jordan Addison. But they'll probably end up with some other receiver from the portal anyway. Like, find a good receiver who plays for a bad team, and he'll end up at USC. That's just how it's going to go, unfortunately. USC is going to be a prime portal destination for a top player, maybe even a top running back, right? It's how like Jahmyr Gibbs shows up at Alabama, right? That's how it's going to go. No, USC is going to reload in the portal every single year, and that's just going to be the fact of it. So, but that's hard to do on defense, right? And why would a defender be like, you know what, I want to go to USC and play for a terrible defense? So, that's that situation. All right, guys, I'm going to call it. It's been about an hour. That's how long I like to go. And I always have to get back to my wife and my kids because they didn't see me last night. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Me and Jamie will be back on Tuesday, probably 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern. And we'll be talking about this. We'll be talking about portal stuff. We're really going to get into a whole bunch of postseason stuff, bowl game talk. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for saying thank you, John, Rajon. I appreciate that. If this is your first time listening, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, right? Please I want to get the channel going. We're going to do some more fun stuff. We're going to do a lot of recruiting stuff coming up. Again, bowl game, all that stuff. So everyone have a great day. Thank you so much. Have a good Sunday, and we will talk to you very soon next week.